I wanted to reflect a little bit at the beginning of this episode on something that happened recently. And actually, I'll start by mentioning this clip that I saw that was really, really inspiring to me. I probably saw it maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was a clip of Kobe Bryant. And, everybody knows I'm not much of a sports guy, so to speak, but I'm incredibly inspired by the great athletes and, especially those who kind of like share what happens behind the scenes, and what they had to do to become great and share things about their mindset and how they thought about things. So obviously rest in peace to the late, great Kobe Bryant. But in this particular clip that was so inspiring to me, he was talking about how, at the beginning of each season, he would set his training regimen, right? So he would decide in advance what his training regimen was going to be. X amount of time in the weight room, X amount of time on cardio, X amount of time, working on shooting, et cetera, et cetera. And he would set that at the beginning of each season. And it was like he would sign a contract with himself. And that contract was non-negotiable for the duration of the season, right? And I loved that so much, that idea that, he's not going to wake up a week later or a month later or 2 or 3 months into the season and question the training regimen. He's not going to wake up 3 months into the season and say, is this really what I should be doing? Maybe I'm going a little too hard on the weight room, or I don't know if I need to be doing this much cardio. I think I got this part figured out. Maybe I can, I can relax on that. It's like, no, this is preset. You've signed the contract. This is the job. And it's non-negotiable. You don't even have to waste any energy questioning it. You just have to wake up and get to it. And it was really, really powerful. It was actually part of on IG where you could scroll through like 7 or 8 different clips, and by the end of all of them, I was crying. I was just sitting in the chair crying. But it was amazing. But this one in particular really resonated, and I thought about it very recently, actually, because I had this thing happen. As many of you know, we've been releasing a lot more music this year, which is very exciting, very fulfilling for me. I talked about that a little bit in the last solo episode that we dropped. But it's been fantastic, man. And one of the things that's been so great about it is I've finally kind of reached my flow within the studio. I've gotten to a point where I'm starting to hit that flow that I so often access as a freestyler, but in the studio. And that's kind of a first for me, which is really, really great. And I've been super consistent with it. I was really going into the studio, every day, basically, in the morning. And I was kind of honoring this sacred time at the beginning of my day, which is when I'm most alert and most excited. And that's when I feel the most creative. And, I was getting it in every day. And I have been growing so much, I feel, as a songwriter, just by getting those reps in and being so consistent. And this was something where, kind of similar to what Kobe Bryant was saying in that clip, I told myself, this time I'm going to commit, and this time I'm going to stay consistent. And then this really funny thing happened. I was actually having a conversation with some people that, that I work with who are just incredibly great people, and they have my best interests in mind and in their hearts at all times. And, we were basically having a discussion that, led me to start thinking like, oh, you know what? It would be great, if I maybe started producing again. I've been rapping on all these incredible beats from, producers that, I'm connected with via the YouTube ecosystem, right? And that's been fantastic, and they do great work, and it's allowed me to be really consistent. But, based on this conversation that I had, I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe it'd be dope if I was producing too. If I was making the beats, like maybe I need to set my drums up and at least start laying down the drum parts. And, it would also be great if I was, collaborating more with people in LA, where we can be in the same room and working in the same studio together. And again, this was all based on this like really positive conversation that I was having with these people. And the thing is, all of that stuff is really true. Like that would be great. Like it would be awesome for me to start incorporating my drumming into what I do. It's another element that I can add to my music. It would be great for me to start producing again. And it would also be great to start collaborating with people face to face, in person, and working with people where we can be in the same room and bounce ideas off of each other. And that would be a big growth opportunity for me too, right? Because since making songs is kind of newer for me, it's easier for me to just kind of do it in a silo by myself. And, I can just search all of YouTube YouTube for a beat that appeals to me in the moment, and that's easy. I can pull that in and just create something to it with no pressure. If I don't like it, I can just let it go. I never have to tell anybody that it happened, right? That's obviously very comforting for me at this stage in my journey, but it would be a great growth opportunity to collaborate with people in real life. All of this is true. But what happened next was I started, rather than going into the studio first thing in the morning and working on songs like I had been for months prior to that, right? All of a sudden, I'm figuring out how to mic up my drum set. I'm pulling out the MIDI keyboard and dusting it off, plugging that in. I got to re-download all my plugins that I used to use to produce. Now I'm doing that. A day goes by, 2 days, 3 days, a week goes by. I'm working on recording these drum sounds, and this is all dope. It's rewarding. It's fulfilling. It's all great, right? But then what happened was, 2 weeks go by and suddenly it's like my eyes open and I wake up to the reality that I haven't been running the program. Like I haven't been doing the plan. The plan was to get in the studio and record, and to do that consistently and to do that every day. And now, even though I was doing these, positive things, they actually distracted me from the plan. And so I wasn't being consistent. And so a couple weeks went by where I wasn't in the studio recording in the morning. And I woke up to this only a few days ago. Now I've been back in the studio each morning for the past 3 days, getting back into the rhythm of it. But what was so crazy was, even though the things that I was doing were positive in a sense, like theoretically they were good steps, right? I woke up to the reality after those 2 weeks, and my thought wasn't like, well, okay, but I needed to do this. My thought was just like, yeah, but it'd be a lot better if I had stayed consistent on the plan for those last 2 weeks. While I was, if I was going to try to figure these other things out, I wish that I didn't stop doing the main thing, right? And so I thought about the Kobe Bryant clip of, you set the plan, you sign the contract, and then it's non-negotiable, right? And I was like, yeah, man, I get it. I get why he did that, and I get why that made him so amazing, at what he does. And I had this thought for the first time where it's like, the problem with the things that distract you from the plan are usually not bad things, right? The problem is not that they're bad things. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're distracted by bad habits or whatever it is, and I can relate to that certainly myself. But at this phase in my life, more often, the problem with the things that distract you from the plan are that they're good things. Like, they're positive things. They make a lot of sense. They would be beneficial. It would be great, to do these other things. But they still, at the end of the day, are distractions from the main plan. They pull you off the plan in another direction. And when I just felt that regret 2 weeks later, low-key regret of like, man, I lost 2 weeks of being consistent and making songs every morning, and being in that studio and making those songs every morning is what has allowed me to sort of enter this flow to where we're able to release music consistently. And we've, been dropping singles weekly for a while now, which feels incredible. And it's so great to be throwing so much paint on the wall and getting feedback from you all, and getting feedback from the audience, and seeing what feels good to me and what's working and what's, doesn't feel as good, and sort of adjusting my path. It feels incredible. And so even though it was just 2 weeks, I was like, damn, man, I should have been channeling that, that Kobe Bryant, that Mamba mentality, and just, locking in and staying with the non-negotiable plan.